Thank you. It's great to be here, and at this age, it's great to be anywhere, I guess. But it's the first time that in Lansing, I've been in Michigan a number of times, and we have a number of clients in here as well. And I think without further comment, we'll get into the program. We're running a little bit late, and as usual, I have more than what I have time for. But if you're interested in receiving a copy of the whole slide presentation, there's some background information. I'd suggest that you do that. You can get it, I'll email it to you. And two ways you can do this. You can fill out a piece of paper, put your email address on it, name and email address, and if you want a phone number, sometimes my daughter actually now works for me. She's back from law school and everywhere else. In fact, she's in South Africa today, touring with some friends, but she works for me, and she gets back, she'll send it out. But there's some good information in the background that I'll gloss through today. And but you can do it that way, and we've got a table over here I'll be at up to the lunch hour, and or you can. Betsy said if you take your name tag, they're going to take the name tags on the way out. You put your email address on the back of that, and give it to her, and then she'll see to it that I can get it to you. But anyway, I don't. As you probably noticed from the crop report early January till now, I probably don't have good news to bring unless you're a livestock producer or an ethanol user. So. But there are some background things that I look at that perhaps we need to understand. There's a lot of outside markets that influence our prices nowadays, and we'll look at a few of those. The first one, and I call it the rediscovering of assets that we went through in the debacle with the finance situation that we had with Wall Street and then the housing and so forth. And I think back and wonder how low our prices may not have gone had we not had that housing situation. Maybe we'd have been able to get through the Wall Street fiasco a little bit easier if it hadn't brought everything else to a halt. But if you notice, what we did from the time we had the big drop in equities, we went back down to the 2008 and 2002 lows of the stock market, and anybody that will say if bought a stock back then lost all their equity. The market burst that bubble and sucked that equity out of the market. And I'd written in Top Producer, and I think also in DTM as well, that if we in agriculture would believe that the rest of the world could purge themselves of the excess irrational exuberance maybe we had. I got caught up in that a little bit. I bought a condo in Palm Springs a number of years ago, and 3 years later the price had gone up so much I bought another one, and I nearly bought the high, and it went up another 10% and backed off. But so now it's somewhere something less than that. And the nice thing about being in California is that they have a law that says if the price of homes falls, so will your real estate taxes. And I got a note back that my real estate taxes dropped in half. So that kind of told me what they thought my condo was worth. But we don't do that in Rockford, Illinois, where I came from. They were real quick to freeze the taxes, and now they say you can't go up or down any more than 10%. Chicago's having a real problem. They're reassessing condos and homes there. You can now buy a home in one of the more, I guess, places to be. Hinsdale, Illinois is a suburb of Chicago, very affluent, I guess, and so to speak. There's a number of nice neighborhoods there, but you can buy a house now and the lot for what the lot cost 3 years ago. And a friend that I work with in Chicago, Gordy Lynn Group, his wife is a developer, and she says you cannot build the home for what the home and the lot are costing now. And I said, well, that's got to have come down, but cement hasn't come down, lumber has come down. Thanks to Asia and the other parts of the world that are growing, we're having a problem replacing it, the old home, the homes for sale now with the new ones. So that has really put the kibosh to some of the developers. And that until we get rid of the inventory, nobody's going to go out and build a new house on a lot that isn't already contracted for until all those older homes are done, and now you got to replace them. So when you build a new one, it will be for more money than anybody paid for the previous one. Right now, though, you can't give a lot away because nobody wants to put a house on it. So interesting times. Pretty easy. I've written a number of articles about how cash is king, and I made a career out of it for 20-some years as a top producer, talking about being debt-free. Debt-free to me means you being able to pick the banker, not the banker being able to pick you. And if you've ever had a problem with that, you know what I mean. Just when the times get tough, and no offense to the bankers, they have to run a business, but that's when usually they pull the rug out from under you. And maybe it's our own fault. Maybe we shouldn't let that rug get so slippery that they can pull it out from under us. But we saw that, and we saw recently in the hog situation, probably have seen it worse than what we expect in the hog industry, in that the corn price drop and so forth, feed input drop may not have been soon enough, and we may have seen more liquidation in that than we think. But at any rate, look at what the Dow Jones did, and it went back 10 years and took the equity back. I think if you go back and look at what you paid for land 10 years ago and what you paid for stock and what's worth today, you're glad that you bought land. And I always talk about a lot of the people that are at the Board of Trade, that are advisors, or they're running stock portfolios. If you notice, they're saving up for that last 5 years when they could buy 5 acres somewhere in the country in a John Deere tractor and play farmer. They've been wanting to do it all their life, and here we've born and raised in it. And I left it, came back to it. I think we have to think of how fortunate we are, and I'll always say that came back to the farm maybe at the right time, but I would do it all over again. So anyway, here we are in the asset side of this thing, and what has happened since last March, and I called it the Republicans' worst nightmare. Here we had the wrong president, the wrong party, doing the wrong things, and the stock market got back half of its equity. And if you were reluctant to buy the stock market because you knew that your kids and their grandkids are going to pay for all this, and then watch the market go higher and missed an opportunity, you got to really have a problem. You don't want the economy to succeed, kind of like Rush Limbaugh, but then you do because you want to get your money back if you're in the equity business. For those that were going to retire and they're 55 years old when this happened, and now another 4 years, a few years have gone by, and now you've had a chance to get back your equity, your decision making, which is about halfway in between the high and the low. And we sometimes do that. We will recapture 50% of a loss or 50% of a rise. We'll pull back. Usually markets fall quicker than faster than they'll ever go back up again. But you have another decision to make. Do I stick with it? Or do I put my money in the bank and my retirement fund into a 4 or 5 year or 10 year deal? And in 10 years at 4% tax deferred, you've got another half of that, whatever's left. And you could probably visualize in your mind and say, by the time I need my money when I'm 65, 66, or 70, I'll have about 70% of what I would have had at the very top. Not a bad deal, considering how bad it could have been. So I think that's the situation we're going through. And what I want to, or have gone through, what I want to point out is this little spot where I've got the arrow. And if I can find it on here, here we go. Right in here, what we did last month in January was post a key reversal down. And we did a lot of these, and I'll point them out. But a key reversal down means you took out the previous month's high and the previous month's low, and you closed below the previous month's low. And I tell my daughter and my son-in-law who works for me also, look at a chart and stare at it until it talks to you. What is it trying to tell you? And what it says in January is that we've considered all this happened since last March, all the stimulus and all those things. And now we have a new situation with a hung jury maybe in Congress finally. And I thought I was in Delaware the day before the election in Massachusetts, and you could just sense it. I was at a university, and usually the academia are liberals, and even then they wanted to vote for a Republican governor in that area, and mainly because of health care. It wasn't a vote against Obama per se, but it's been a vote against Congress, and we'll likely vote those suckers out. The incumbents are going to have a big trouble whether they're Republicans or Democrats. But going into that, I kind of knew what was coming. More of the same, more spending, probably inflation, although I don't believe it. And I could deal with that because I thought we had plans, we had majority, and I knew what the new rules were going to be. Suddenly that all changed. And I thought, well, that's probably good, because I remember under Clinton, when we took away the power from the Democratic Party, we had not had one party control with the Democratic Republicans, probably not good, but